Welcome to Difficult Conversation Africa broadcast, a pioneering platform which attempts to raise, discuss issues many are afraid to face. I present to you the host, Yinka Olaito, a media communications development expert, author with about 2 decades experience in Africa and in the United States.
Welcome again to Difficult Conversation Africa podcast, a platform established to discuss issues that many have read of, which affect our development as an individual, corporate, or national development. In this episode, we're looking at how social skill affect relationship performance. And let me give you a background to what we're trying to do. Social skills are fundamental to healthy relationship. A healthy relationship is one where people involved feel respected, honored, and they can become the best as well as still be committed to the demand of the relationship, either to a spouse, to a work environment, to a friend, acquaintance, business, or diplomatic relation. Relationships enrich our lives and can also become toxic. The focus of this episode is to help you listener to understand a master protocol of healthy relationship so as to prevent collateral damage. And in this episode, I have with me Emmanuel Otomi. Emmanuel Otomi is a behavioral analyst and life skill consultant with human capacity development. His experience spanned over 30 years, and he has been involved in transformational training for corporate, youth, and faith-based organizations, both in Nigeria and in the UK. In actual fact, it's based in UK, and this conversation is holding through Zoom. Welcome, Emmanuel Tomi, to the conversation.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So we go straight to the question: what are social skills, and its fundamental? Well, I'm trying to say 2 or 3 questions in one. What are social skills fundamental? And third, how can dysfunctional background affect maturing of these skills?
Well, I would say the best way to approach your multifaceted question is to actually try and break it down. So let's take the first part, which is what are social skills? For us to appreciate the response to that, I think it would be fair to break down those 2 words, social and skill. Social is gotten from the Latin root word companionship or companion, while skill is the ability to perform a specific task. So, in a way, if we combine those 2 words, we're looking at social skills, we're looking at the capacity or the competences that facilitates effective interaction with others. So, what are the things that I know or that I can do that ensures that I can get a productive and effective relationship going with other people in such a way that it will even help me achieve my goals and also help them achieve their goals. Okay. So that's how I'll define social skills. So there are things that we need, competences that we need to be able to effectively relate with those in our environment. Now, you have also asked, what are its fundamentals? In my opinion, the very first fundamental to social skills is actually clarity of vision. Why am I in a relationship in the first place? Why am I working with this organization? Why are these 2 countries coming together? There's usually a default or a conscious reason that brings 2 people or 2 parties together. Sometimes when that is not known, what then happens is that we end up having a dysfunctional relationship because I want something that I think you have, and you want something that you think I have, and we're both not willing to share. Or I assume that I don't have what you think I have, or you assume that you don't have things that I think you have. But when there's clarity, this is why we're engaging with each other. It helps. What then that does is that it makes the ability or the medium of communication between both parties very effective. We know what we're talking about. We know how we relate. It also enhances a clear understanding of social cues. I'm able to read the norms, the society, our engagement, you're able to also read me. the way I look, the way when I roll my eyes, when I sit down. Countries understand what the president said in their speech after we had our meeting. There's also the ability to
Okay.
resolve conflict resolution. So those are some of the fundamentals of social skills. There are more, but I'll just leave those ones as at that. Now, the third part of your question has to do with
Dysfunctional relationship.
yeah, a dysfunctional background.
Dysfunctional relationship. Background.
I think a good starting point would be to actually understand what we mean by dysfunctional. Now, dysfunctional
Okay.
means literally not operating normally or properly.
Normally.
Exactly.
Okay.
But what it also means is that there is an expectation and there's clarity as to what normal or normal operation means. So dysfunctional then comes in when the activities or the results are not aligning with the initial expectations. In the case of social skills, you have asked, can a dysfunctional background affect the maturing of social skills? And my answer to that question is yes. And the reason is this: social skills are learned skills. We are not
Okay.
naturally gifted with social skills, but our
Okay.
backgrounds can have a massive impact on the things that we're able to learn at an early age or at a later age, or the things that we despise. It's not necessary. Our culture
Okay.
also has a major part to play, and so on and so forth. So,
So you are saying that a relationship or social skill are learned and it has some fundamental vision and what is the goal of that relationship. So without those goals, it means that um, it will be difficult to actually know what social skills can aid the performance of this relationship if you are in anyone.
exactly, it's like you're setting out on a journey with someone and you don't have a defined destination. Do you understand?
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
if we have agreed that we're going into a relationship for the sole purpose of starting a business and building that business to a 50 billion naira
Capacity.
valued
Or,
business,
or
what it
okay.
then does is that we're able to then sit down as individuals and share the responsibilities. When we are heading towards that goal, it becomes easier to identify. When we're moving away from that goal, we understand it. We then understand the skills. Remember the capacities that we need in order to achieve that result. In some cases, we will come to the conclusion that between the two of us or the three of us, depending on those in the relationship, you can agree that yes, within amongst us, we have the competencies required to achieve that result. And where we have done our assessment, because we are clear as to where we are heading, if we are clear that we do not have the competencies within us, then we can then consider going out to recruit
To
that
learn
competence. Exactly. So there.
or to learn. So that means that social skill will require paying attention to cues and patterns.
Absolutely. And those cues and patterns are will only make sense within the context of the results we want to achieve.
Okay, so it's not that you should bring any form of patterns into that relationship. It must be those patterns and cues that can aid in the achievement of your own relationship goal, whether it's diplomatic relationship, corporate or employee and employer relationship. The patterns must be something that enhances the goal of that relationship.
Yeah. Put it this way. As humans, we are always emitting or displaying skills. Okay. But those
Okay.
skills on their own are only meaningful within the context for which we are in that relationship. What do I mean? If, and I'm going to use an example that may not be very appropriate, but forgive me. If I see a lady that I'm interested in, okay, maybe my goal is not to marry her, but to just sleep with her. You realize that the way I conduct myself with that lady may be different.
From our own expectation
Exactly. Particularly if her own expectation is
is
marriage.
marriage.
So it means the things that I'm doing, she will interpret it this way, while because my goal is different, I'm interpreting it this way. There are always cues, there are always things that we're doing. But it's actually the results in the minds or the intentions and the hearts of the parties involved that give those cues and those skills their ultimate meaning.
Okay. Can a relationship be whole without any laid down structures? Or in your own field, can there be perfect relationship in personal, business, national, diplomatic relationship?
So you've asked, can a relationship be whole without
Or
any laid down
perfect?
structure or
Yeah.
perfect? Okay. Now, okay, let's use those words interchangeably, whole and perfect. So what it means, the way I understand that question is that for that relationship to be whole, it means the people involved, the parties involved, the organizations involved, the nations involved are, are having their needs met, because it will not be perfect if it is just one
One
side
sided.
that is having its needs met or its goals achieved. That is in an ideal world, okay, where all the needs are met. But that is what we want
Not
to
achievable
lay
in
down
a
as what a
relationship.
whole or perfect relationship is. Now, what that also tells us is that it is actually the parties involved in that relationship that gets to
That can
define
determine
or
what is
decide
perfect or
if the
whole.
relationship is whole or perfect.
Okay.
Okay, because the third party making the assessment may not have been there when the vision for the relationship was defined.
And the
And is that
parameters are
vision, like we
defined.
said, exactly, because it's that vision that then determines the quality and quantity of skills and competences required for the achievement of the vision. And when the quality and quantity of skills required is available and they are being combined in the right way and the vision is being met in the eyes of both parties, they have a whole relationship. But the third party
Okay.
who may
There's
have
one
their own
question that came
agenda.
to my mind. Hello, there's one question, there's one thought that's come to my mind now. So, have you seen cases where people they're already in relationship, either business or at national level, and at a point they say, "Oh, wait, what are we even doing, sir?" Have you heard statements like that from people who are said to be in a form of relationship? It means that what they were been doing before there was no laid down relationship. So the skill necessary may not be there, and everybody is just running haywire. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. And, okay. So,
So is a relationship that without a laid down cannot even be whole? That's what you're saying.
mhm. You know what? So, at different levels
Mm.
and for different types of relationships, the definition of that vision can vary. I'm sorry, I'm going to use America as a case in point. You have a new president who has a different view of his nation's involvement in some of the international organizations. Okay.
Okay.
So there is now a need to redefine the quality of relationship America is prepared to have with those organizations. Why? because suddenly one of the parties has decided that my vision is different. I no longer buy into your vision
So what you're saying is that at a point you can back out of a relationship that is not functioning or whole for you.
of ideally that should be one of the ways of stamping your authority or conducting yourself in a dysfunctional relationship. Because remember what we talked about dysfunctional earlier is where one of
Yeah,
the
okay.
parties or both of the parties are no longer getting their desired outcomes. There was a reason we entered this relationship in the first place. Okay. If I sit
Okay.
down, I do an assessment and I realize that, hang on, I'm not getting what I want. I can choose to back down or back out or pretend as if I'm enjoying it. Maybe because I have another reason outside the initial reason for being in that relationship, which means even needs evolve over time within a relationship.
Okay. The next question I want us to deal with is, what are the skills individual must bring to the table to make relationship functional, and what value can empathy and emotional intelligence play in social skill, emotional intelligence deliver?
Okay. So let's take your first question. So, about what are the skills that
The
individuals
skills
must bring
individual
to the
must
table to make
bring to the
relationship
table.
functional. So, at an individual
Okay.
level, I'm going to try and provide about 4 or 5 of these skills. Um, the capacity to be clear as to what it is you want, and I'm talking about both parties. Clarity.
Okay.
There is no short there's no short, there shouldn't be, clarity should not be in short supply. We need to be absolutely clear. This is what we want part time. Again, it goes back to what we said earlier that it is possible that the needs may evolve over time. Now, because there's clarity, then there must be the skill of listening. In fact, communicating. I must be able
Okay.
to, with at a verbal, at a non-verbal level, be able to receive information from you and pass information across to you and ensure that you understand the information I'm passing across to you. Put it this way. If
Okay.
I'm passing information across to you, it is actually my responsibility to ensure that you understand, you make sense of what I'm saying or what I'm doing. So understanding is another skill. Respect. Okay. Respect is
Exactly.
very vital. I may not like what you're doing or how you're doing it, but I should honor and regard your skills, your status, or your feelings enough to try to watch this, understand why you are conducting yourself in the way you're conducting it yourself. Now, respect does not mean I agree. But respect means I will be patient enough to find out why you are conducting yourself in that way. And the last skill I'm going to talk about that we bring to make a relationship functional is empathy, the capacity to be able to walk in the other person's shoes, to know why they
Okay.
feel the way they feel. Is not to go
Okay.
about and say, well, is it because of what I said that is making you cry like that? Or no, it's about it's about apologizing and saying, look, I really am sorry. I don't know what it is I said I did, but please forgive me. But could you explain to me so that we can ensure this doesn't happen a second time or again? Okay. So that's how I'll
Okay. Okay.
respond to that first
To
part of
that
your question. The
question.
second part
So,
had to do with
which is the
empathy. Could
role
you
of
could you ask that question again, please?
I said the role of emotional intelligence in building a skill, and maybe we should just add this to it. Relationship have dynamics and web of complex emotion, because this is where emotional intelligence is really important. That we know that relationship has um, it has web. It's very complex and has and it comes with emotions and pattern. How can individual scale? Scaling mean now? How can you um, how can you still perform to the maximum despite all the emotions and the patterns and the web of complexities that a relationship comes with?
Brilliant. I think the best approach would be to actually respond to that question bottoms up. That is, if we look at it from the context of the complex emotions and patterns, then we can look at the role that emotional intelligence plays. Now, we by default have stated that relationships by their very nature are dynamic. We talked about that when we looked at the first question, that over time people change, we change, our needs change.
Yeah.
Okay. But
Okay.
one thing that is constant when it comes to people is that we are a storehouse of different emotions. Okay. And those
Okay.
emotions are triggered by certain behaviors. There's one of the people that I followed the most said something that people are are different, but they are
Yes.
predictably different. People are different, but they are predictably different. There are certain emotions that will trigger, there are certain activities, certain words that will trigger certain emotions from some people. And that is where the patterns come in, which you talked about patterns. So, my job within any relationship, your job within any relationship, is to understand the patterns. So, if I say A today and you blow up, I say A tomorrow, you blow up. I say A the third day, you blow up. Not only have I marked the trigger for that emotion of blowing up, but I also see a pattern. Now, the challenge there is
Okay.
that it means I can control your blowing up by just saying, hey, unless you work on it. So, you see,
Okay.
the emotions, exactly. Studying the emotions and the patterns is something that should be the responsibilities of both parties
Both
at
parties.
different points in time. So exactly, which is what now brings us to emotional intelligence. And simply put, it is the capacity to understand my emotions as well as the emotions of other people. And when we're talking about self-awareness. How well do you recognize and
Okay.
understand your own emotions as well as the emotions of others? Because you can take advantage of someone who you understand their emotions better than they do. And it's also vice versa.
Okay.
Exactly. Now, when you understand or when you become aware of your emotions, what you then need to do is to regulate it. You learn to manage your emotions, manage your impulses, adapt to changing situations. Because if you don't, and there's someone smart on the other team, they are going to take advantage of you. These are some of
Mm.
the things you see when there are negotiations between organizations or nations. Because they
Okay.
understand the resources at the disposal of the other nation or the other company. But I'm talking about material and human resources. They are able to say certain things or do certain things in certain ways to trigger a specific kind of response. So if I know that the leader of your organization is an erratic person, I know what to do in social media. I know what to put out there to draw a response, a particular kind
Once.
of
Okay.
response. But
All
that is
right.
where
Because of our time. Yeah.
self-regulation
Yeah.
comes in. Yeah, go on, sir.
Comes in, which is part of emotional intelligence. So, because of our time, we have one final question I want to ask you. Power dynamics in person, business, and diplomatic relations do change. How does an individual uh, prepare for these changes so as to avoid bitterness or becoming a collateral damage for you for the relationship?
Okay. Three words. Three words. When we're talking about power dynamics in business, in people, in diplomatic relationships, I'm preparing. The three words I'm going to offer you is expect, prepare, and adapt. Expect there is humans are organic by nature. Even our environment is organic. It is bound to change. That is what dynamics is all about. Now, when you expect it, what it then does is that it gets you to a position where you consciously prepare for those changes. The person that is earning 10 naira today may not always earn 10 naira. They could earn less or earn more. The question you're asking yourself now is, if this person starts earning more, would I be in a position by then to still relate with them at the same level that I'm relating with them with? Now, it is in being able to answer that question that you now learn the need to adapt. You see nations do this, you see organizations do this. And what you're basically talking about is acknowledging that change will happen, whether we like it or not. But then, because change is happening, is being able to then take that change and make it work for you. Okay, so the dynamics between me and this person has changed. I have moved higher or they have moved higher. And I sit down with them and have an open conversation with them about how best to move forward. And what that then does is it enables me adapt to those changes, but adapt in such a way that it works for me. Some people adapt by complaining. My own counsel is,
Okay, yeah, that's true.
if you're adapting and it's not helping you move forward, then there's a need to question that what you have adapted into or adapted to.
So what we're saying, as a roundup, is that the power dynamic changes can be handled by adaptation, can be handled by preparation and expectation that things will change. Because some people start as friend, a childhood friend, and then somebody suddenly become a governor or a president. The power dynamics has changed because this individual now have protocols that you must observe. So it is better to think about how to adapt and change to the best of which will be that we enhance the relationship, right?
Correct. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because,
So
go on, sir.
I'm listening. I'm listening. As we round up.
So when we embrace the fact that humans will always change, what it should do to us is to put us in a position where we start putting things in place to ensure that we are moving in the right direction so that when that change comes, we're able to take advantage of it.
All right, Mr. Emmanuel Tommy, thank you very much. I just want to say thank you because of our time now today. I'm sure that we will have you once again. It has been a session that challenged my thinking, and I believe that most of our audience will agree. So when you talk about social skill, how it affects your performance, relationship performance, there's no relationship without a goal. If you're in any relationship without a goal, it becomes impossible for you to know what skill and cues to look out for. You also have to understand the other person. You also have to expect that this person will change and the power dynamics will change. You also have to develop. There's no relationship that is static. Some of the things that we said is the fact that you must grow also because there's no static relationship. On this, I want to say thank you, our listener, and thank you, Emmanuel Tommy, for this opportunity. And I believe that we will have you again. There's also, we are looking at a part 2 for this conversation, and I believe that we'll have it. Thank you, everyone, and have a good day.
Thank you for listening to this episode. For inquiry, please send an email to info@difficultconversationafrica.org. Telephone 0809 591. Please follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Difficult Conversation Africa. See you soon.